In this video, you will discover Schopenhauer's hidden truth, that intelligence, the very thing we admire most, is not a blessing, but a curse, because the more intelligent you are, the more you see reality for what it truly is, and the harder it becomes to live within it. If you want to understand why great minds suffer, stay with me until the end, because the revelation may change the way you see yourself. And before we dive deeper, make sure to subscribe to The Last Thinker. This is where we explore the ideas that most people are too afraid to face. Schopenhauer, known as the German philosopher of pessimism, dared to claim something most people prefer to deny. Intelligence is not always a blessing, but often a terrible burden. Why? Because the more intelligent you are, the more clearly you see life for what it truly is. No illusions, no comforting lies, no sweet distractions to numb the pain. For Schopenhauer, intelligence did not simply mean logical ability or problem-solving skills. It meant awareness, and awareness inevitably meant suffering. The ordinary person can lose himself in pleasures, in noise, in shallow entertainment. He can cling to promises of easy happiness, to comfortable narratives, to the belief in a future that will somehow make sense of his current pain. He can live surrounded by endless distractions, parties, addictions, routines, without ever questioning too deeply the meaning behind it all. But the truly intelligent individual, he cannot deceive himself for long. He sees through the veil. He recognizes the fragility of the beliefs that sustain the majority. He sees that behind all human striving lies an endless cycle of desire, frustration, and suffering. And once you see this, there is no going back. Ignorance may be a kind of bliss, but for the awakened mind, illusion loses its taste. What once seemed fulfilling, pleasures, superficial relationships, material goals, suddenly reveals its emptiness. What once promised meaning now appears as nothing more than a disguise for the void. This is why Schopenhauer claimed that life, at its core, is marked by suffering. We desire endlessly, and every desire fulfilled brings only a fleeting satisfaction, followed by emptiness once again. It is like the unquenchable thirst of someone lost in the desert. Each sip of water merely prolongs the torture. And here lies the cruel paradox. The more intelligent the individual, the more conscious he becomes of this endless cycle. He sees the repetition, the futility. He recognizes that most people live only to postpone the inevitable, death. This lucidity, which should be a noble achievement, turns instead into an invisible prison. The genius, the thinker, the deep observer carries a weight that others cannot even imagine. Perhaps this explains why so many of history's greatest minds experience melancholy, loneliness, and even despair. Not because they were weak, but because they saw further. What seemed bearable to others became intolerable to them. Schopenhauer went as far as to say that suffering is the very substance of life itself, and that only those with above-average intelligence can fully grasp this truth. The rest remain anesthetized, living unaware of the abyss beneath their feet. This is the irony. The very gift that can illuminate also condemns. Intelligence does not merely open doors to knowledge, it opens doors to the unbearable clarity of existence. And this is why Schopenhauer regarded the genius almost as a martyr of life. He carries within him a vision that cannot be fully shared, for few are prepared to hear it. His sensitivity turns into isolation. His clarity becomes a burden. While the majority live chasing distractions, running after fleeting pleasures, social approval, or illusory rewards, the genius watches it all as if it were a stage play. And in the silence of his lucidity, he feels like a stranger in the world. Perhaps deep down, Schopenhauer wanted to tell us that intelligence is like a lamp lit in a dark room. It illuminates, yes, but it also reveals what many would rather never see. And it is this vision that makes us understand the darker side of existence. Suffering is not an accident, not something that happens occasionally. Suffering is the very structure of life. And the awareness of this is, at the same time, humanity's greatest triumph and its greatest curse. Schopenhauer observed something profound. The more intelligent a person is, the more likely they are to live in solitude. Not because they dislike people, but because they no longer feel at home in the ordinary games of life. They are withdrawn, often misunderstood, sometimes labeled melancholic or antisocial. Why? Because intelligence isolates. It separates you from the crowd. It tears you away from the warm comfort of illusions. Suddenly, you no longer belong to the collective dream that keeps most people entertained. And here lies Schopenhauer's hidden secret. For him, happiness does not belong to the genius, the brilliant, or the hyper-rational. Happiness belongs to those who can still be fooled by life, those who can still play the game of chasing pleasures, believing promises, and trusting appearances. Think about it. The less you see, the lighter life feels. If you believe in tomorrow's promises, if you are satisfied with simple pleasures, you can walk lightly without questioning too much. But the moment you see through the veil, when you recognize that pleasure is fleeting and that life offers no ultimate guarantees, a weight settles on your soul. This is the paradox Schopenhauer revealed. Intelligence gives clarity, but it takes away comfort. It gives vision, but it robs you of peace. The crowd may laugh, dance, and celebrate while the thinker watches from the outside, unable to join in without feeling the emptiness beneath it all. And yet, he cannot unsee. Once the curtain has been lifted, once the trick has been exposed, life is never again the same performance. This is why many intelligent people feel alienated. It is not arrogance. It is simply that their perspective no longer matches the rhythm of the crowd. They live in a kind of exile, too awake to surrender to illusions, but too human to escape suffering. Schopenhauer even suggested that those who live more lightly, with less intellect and less awareness, might actually be closer to happiness than the philosopher himself. Because for them, the world is still painted in bright colors, still full of promises. They can be deceived, and in that deception, they find comfort. But the intelligent, they see the cracks in the painting. They see the shadows behind the light. They know that every joy contains its seed of disappointment, that every possession loses its charm, that every relationship carries fragility, and that life itself leads inevitably to decline. This is not to say that Schopenhauer despised life, but rather that he recognized its structure. And to him, intelligence was not the key to happiness. It was the key to truth. And truth, he warned, is not always pleasant. Now, I want to turn this question to you. Do you agree with Schopenhauer? Do you believe that intelligence, instead of being a gift, can actually be a curse? That seeing too much might make life harder to bear? Share your opinion in the comments below. I want to hear your perspective. Your voice matters in this conversation. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to The Last Thinker, because here we dive into the truths most people prefer to ignore. And now, here is Schopenhauer's final warning. He once said, "The wise have always said the same things, and the fools, who are the majority, have always done just the opposite." In this short sentence, he condensed centuries of human experience. Wisdom has always existed. The truths of life, its brevity, its suffering, its illusions, have always been spoken by the few who dared to see clearly. And yet, the masses never listened. They did not want truth. They wanted comfort. This, Schopenhauer believed, is the tragedy of intelligence. It shows you reality, but reality is not what people desire. The world doesn't run on truth. It runs on illusion. Most people survive by convincing themselves of stories, that things will last forever, that suffering is avoidable, that pleasure will fulfill them, that meaning lies outside themselves. These illusions, though fragile, keep society in motion. They are the glue of human existence. But the intelligent man? He pierces through them. He sees the futility of chasing endless desires. He sees the inevitability of pain and loss. He sees the masks people wear and the emptiness behind many of their pursuits. That is why he is often lonely. That is why he feels cursed. And that is why Schopenhauer himself lived in what he called pessimism, not because he hated life, but because he refused to paint it with false colors. Yet within this apparent curse lies a hidden gift. If you can endure the weight of truth, if you can withstand the solitude of clarity, you are no longer bound by the same chains as everyone else. You are free from illusions, free from false promises, free from the endless race of desires that never satisfy. You may not be happy in the shallow, conventional sense, smiling endlessly, ignoring suffering, chasing pleasure. But you will live awake. You will live unchained. You will live unafraid of the truth. And perhaps, Schopenhauer hinted, this is a deeper kind of happiness. Not the happiness of distraction, but the serenity of one who no longer needs the lie. The dignity of one who chooses to face existence as it is and still endure. This is the paradox. The burden of intelligence is heavy. It isolates, it reveals, it wounds. But in carrying this burden, you find a freedom that ignorance can never offer. So remember this. You may never want to be intelligent again once you understand the cost. But if you are willing to pay the price, if you are ready to carry the burden of truth, then you will discover a strength that illusion can never give you. And in that strength lies the possibility of living fully awake, even in a world that prefers to sleep. If this message spoke to you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to The Last Thinker and join a community where we confront the truths most people run away from. Share this video with someone who dares to question and leave a comment below. Do you think intelligence is truly a curse? Or is it the highest form of freedom? Your voice matters, and your journey into truth has only just begun.